This video is brought to you by Harold Sack, who gave me a massive 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Captain Howler versus Elvika, Edgar Markov and Bruenor. One lander is not good enough. If it was an untapped land I might go Faithless Looting, but it isn't, so we will try and get into at least a couple of lands. Yeah, Sulphur Falls fixes our colours, but it's still a turn 2 Faithless Looting. Let's keep this. Skull Clamp for Elvika coming down way sooner than you would expect. And now, thanks to the Shivan Reef, we can take a Pain land and go for the turn 1 Faithless Looting, which maybe we should be holding on to our discard effects, but we can dig deeper into the deck this way and maybe draw into more. So get rid of an Anger, and I think losing out on an island should be fine. Didn't draw into any 2 mana rocks, unfortunately. A Stoneforge Mystic from the equipment player will allow him to tutor up an equipment. And we see the Verse Vampire from Edgar Markov. It is a Legion Lieutenant, enters with a Vampire token, which is now a 2/2. Izzet Signet from the Izzet player, the other Izzet player. And now we've got a turn 2 play thanks to that loot in the early game, so Cunning Survivor will become unblockable and get its power buffed. I'll play a Mountain to give our stuff haste thanks to that Anger that's in the bin. Noteworthy that there is an Urborg over here now, ready to tap down for all that black mana that I'm sure we'll need. So play the Cunning Survivor. I accidentally played a Mountain there, should have played an Island because I forgot this was a Pain land, so we took 1 damage when we didn't need to. We will just hold up our 3 toughness, I think. Colossus Hammer was tutored previously and is played this turn, as is a Swiftblade Vindicator, double strike Vigilance Trample. So if he gets down his commander next turn, he can throw this onto the double strike Trampler, which will be a hell of a lot of damage. A Talisman, and the Vamp player just passes straight through the turn. So it could be that removal for the creature or the artifact is being held up by Edgar Markov. Commander's Sphere is a bit more ramp for Elvika, and no interaction being held up, just getting down the first few tokens with Krenko's command, so 2 1/1 goblins ready for that Skull Clamp. Okay, Careful Study is good with Riel, so I think we're fine just going for the Riel here. So we do see Bruenor. The question is, who is going to eat a bunch of damage from this thing, if anyone? Mana being held up by the Vamp player might mean that he's left alone. This jumps up to a 13/11 on turn 4 with double strike, trample and vigilance. And it swings in at us for 26 damage. Jet Medallion for the Vampire player with 4 cards left in hand. Curious that he tapped down his Plains and his Tricycle land for that. Alright, and had a dam. It was a sorcery speed dam, so I'll choose to believe that he didn't have instant removal. Not that he should be using that to protect our life total anyway. But we might be able to play for a little bit longer yet. Elvika goes straight for a Clamp onto the Goblin token, so 6 cards in hand, and an unexpected windfall here before we manage to play any such card. So gets rid of a Goblin Electromancer to that, makes a couple of treasure, and stays at 6 in hand. Holds on to the 2 treasure, but gives up on the token to draw up to 7. Okay, a Path of the Pyromancer, so we could add some red mana with that. I think I want to continue to set up and get my commander down. If we've got any chance of catching up and punishing the Boros player, taking him out, then we'll need to use our Captain Howler to do it. Kellen the Fey-Blooded, yeah, he's going for the tutor with that. And tutored out a means of trample with the Shadow Spear, so you can equip that for free, making it a 17/13. And then Shadow Spear will give the trample, making that not quite commander damage, but a 20/14. And this time it goes into the right at least. This guy's making himself the arch enemy at least. Herald's Home will discount the vampires further, so the black ones will cost 2 less. Seeing a great lack of vampires here, but there's a good one, Kalitas. Bit of Graveyard Hate, make some zombie chump blockers. Commander's Sphere has been cracked over here for a card draw at some point, and still manages to get Elvika into play. Have to imagine that we're all looking into the left here. 8 cards in the Izzet player's hand. I'm hoping he doesn't quit here, because we might be able to make use of Jeska's Will into Path of the Pyromancer and do some stuff. Blasphemous Act wouldn't help here, is noteworthy, because that has 14 points of damage. Thrill of Possibility is more discard. We've seen more discard from Elvika than Captain Howler so far. Makes a couple of goblin tokens and discarded a negate, and then just decides to quit. So now we don't have, I mean, there's Teferi we can phase a creature out with. But yeah, that Jeska's Will is nowhere near as good. We could try and get into a land with it. I think we've got more chance with the Careful Study. We could go Careful Study for 1 mana. We draw 4 and discard 2, effectively, with the Riel. So let's go Careful Study. And there we have a Lonely Sandbar and Fear of Missing Out. We'll have Haste, so that could be relevant. Let's go Magmakin Artillerist. Lonely Sandbar, is that going to be of relevance? It depends on what we draw into, ultimately. They can chump block with the Stoneforge Mystic at the moment, and I'm thinking if we take him out, it's going to have to be with commander damage. But I just don't think we can do it here. So I'll get rid of the Sandbar, try and draw into something else. The Cunning Survivor is going to get buffed. I think we'll have to put the buff from the commander onto the Survivor as well. We draw 2 cards with Riel, only triggers once a turn though, and still no lands. That's just... yeah, that pretty much sums the game up. We needed that land in order to get Teferi down here and phase the commander out. So in that case it has to be Jeska's Will, and we won't have access to any blue mana here unless we can make a land. So maybe a land and a Pongify we need to see. Wow, no lands there either. Okay, well we were never going to do anything this game, were we? So I might as well just go for the Izzet Signet. We're probably going down here anyway. Play the Fear of Missing Out. We do get to draw and discard when that enters, so we might still draw into a Pongify. Get rid of Izzet Charm. Buff the Cunning Survivor and the Howler. And there we go, get into a Misty Rainforest, which is too late. Yeah, might as well just crack it for mana. Could have got in a tap land there actually, because all I'm going to do is play the Triton Shore Stalker. Yeah, so, unlucky. Had to dig a hell of a lot to get into a land there. If we had some kind of evasion on our commander, then we could have made use of the Fear of Missing Out. Might as well just take everything into the left, because he can smash straight through us anyway. Fear of Missing Out triggers will untap the 10-3 unblockable. Deal as much damage as we can. Something tells me the Vamp player isn't going to do much here either. So we get to draw a card, and draw another card, and then beginning of combat again. Just swing in with the Cunning Survivor. We've got one more chance to draw into some means of spot removal. And we got him down from 60 to 29. Captain Howler, this has had 2 triggers placed onto it, so we are drawing twice. I'm not sure if that is how it's meant to work, but that's really good. If not, I never thought of that. We got into Winged Boots, which is too late. We wanted to be putting this onto our commander, really. But we could be going down by an early turn 6, unfortunately. Yeah, that player scooping could have made all the difference, because he had 8 cards in hand, and the additional mana with Jeska's Will would have allowed us to dig deeper with Path of the Pyromancer, and we would have gained more mana from this as well. So, well, it's Magic Online. Said it all a million times. Solemn Simulacrum from the Boros player. All we can really do here is hope that he doesn't swing in towards us, but after the turn we just had, I suppose he has to turn in at us. Umezawa's Jitte, which gets equipped for free. So this being commander damage now, and it's still trample so we can block. Probably still comes in at us. Yep, so that is lifelink trample on a 22-14. Jitte is taking out the Lord, -1/-1 twice onto the Lieutenant. And then Herald's Horn, not sure he's going to reveal any creatures on the top here. Nope, you don't tend to with the Herald's Horn. A Demonic Tutor should be able to buy the Vamp player some time. Oubliette would be ideal here, but very few people run Oubliette. That would grind this player to a halt though, because when you phase out a creature it does take auras and equipment with it. So you'd be effectively using the black piece of removal as artifact removal, unusually. Wiping out artifacts could be another one. If he has Vandal Blast he can afford that. Captivating Vampire, that's even more interesting, so he just straight up steals the Bruenor. So if I was my opponent, you can do this at instant speed, even with summoning sick creatures, but he just straight up takes the Bruenor, so you can use this with summoning sick creatures even. That's what makes it so good, so just takes the Bruenor. He still does not have control of the equipment, but while they are attached to Bruenor, the Bruenor owner does need to worry about commander damage from his own commander. Swings in some Vamps. Solemn goes for card draw, which could make all the difference here with only 2 cards in hand, so I might not have attacked there. I might have gone for some semblance of an Alpha Strike with this. He's still got access to Kellen as well, which will be a double striker. He has Path to Exile for his own Bruenor though. Be interesting if he just drew into that this turn and he would have been a turn away from it. Don't suppose we'll ever know. Brass's Tunnel Grinder does not get to discard a card. Do you still draw the 1 though? I don't think so. Oh no, you do still draw a card, so if you play this with no cards in hand, you draw 1. Stoneforge being placed onto the 2-3, and the Jitte placed on there as well in order to... This is whenever it deals any combat damage, so that includes blocks. Herald's Horn still not showing any creatures. We do see Phyrexian Tower in order to gain a little bit of extra mana. He will be able to buff his army here because Drana, I'm not sure I covered Drana coming into play, but that has first strike and can fly over everything. Although what our opponent should probably do here is steal the Stoneforge Mystic away. Yeah, so he does that, and as long as Cap Vamp is still in play with a bunch of tokens, he can consistently steal our opponent's stuff. He just needs to hope that Bruenor doesn't get haste. A Malakir Blood Witch is a good means of whittling down our opponent's life. Gone back up to 49 after we got him down into the late 20s, so back to his starting life total with 1 card in hand. Well, the Vamp player's up to 48 with none in hand. And there is Edgar Markov, so that will come in with haste, and it will also buff up the army, so next turn we could be looking at a Vampire win. Plus counter on everything before damage is dealt, and then Drana puts a plus counter on each attacking creature with first strike damage, so we'll buff the Edgar Markov before it deals damage, just in case commander damage is relevant there. Oh no, actually this has first strike as well, scratch that, so buffed up to a 7-7 after it's dealt first strike damage. And the Boros player just scoops it up, so Captivating Vampire doing some work for the Vampire player there. Commander on Magic Online seems to have turned into a very aggro meta. It seems as though, I point this out every video it seems like, but everyone just runs all their interaction the first chance they get, whether they need to or not. And it can sometimes be a case of the fastest deck wins, which was certainly the case with Bruenor with regards to knocking us out. But you'll notice that the 2 players left at the table had run out of fuel very quickly. So if we'd just got into 1 piece of removal to help us survive against Bruenor, or the other player hadn't scooped on us and allowed us to dig deeper into our deck, then I think we would have been looking pretty good there, because we would have been the one with cards in hand compared to our other opponents. But unfortunately didn't get to see too much from our commander, unfortunately, just that 1 last turn there. So I will try again with Captain Howler, but hopefully you got some enjoyment from this video anyway. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as ever. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.